Okay, hello and welcome to episode 11 of Not Enough Design. And today I'm really honored to introduce Renata Morris, who's the CEO, and Gabriel Seibel, who's the COO and CFO of Eat Studio, an international branding and design firm who have clients like Amazon, Redbull, and Netflix. And I've been doing a lot of research about you guys and super excited to be talking to you today.
Thanks for having us. That's super exciting.
Amazing. Yeah, we can't wait.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I really admire is Gabriel. I tried a lot when I was younger to learn Italian and try to move to Milan, it's really inspiring to see that you've not only learned a new language, I believe, and moved to Paris when you were 19. That was quite young. Am I right?
Yeah, exactly.
Where were you before that?
So I was born and raised in the south of Brazil, which is where I come from, and I've been in touch with advertising and design for such a long while. And my story started when I got a scholarship in my hometown to study just design and publicity and advertising as a whole. So I fell in love with it, and I worked very hard to get a scholarship to continue my studies at that place. And all of those scholarships and prizes and studies ended up taking me to Paris. So I got a prize to come here to do an exchange program. And I got here in Paris when I was celebrating my 19th birthday. I spoke no French whatsoever, and I had a 500 euro bill, and I thought that was like a fortune back then. And then I realized that was nothing in the beginning of my story. And then, it was a lot of listening and a lot of paying attention and just being quiet, surrounded by people speaking very fast and not understanding a word. And then listening to a lot of things. And I would speak in front of the mirror at my place over and over and listen to a lot of music. And then it happened. It was through this process of learning French that I also met Renata. This is how we were put in touch. I met her a couple of months before I moved to France. So at that point, I was looking for freelance gigs to be able to make my new life happen and work. And Renata just founded the company in LA. The company was a year old. And we had like a first big project with a music club and a festivals and all of those things. And I was freelancing, doing everything like design and coding. And I was writing social media blog posts and all of those things. And fast forward 12 years later, we're here. Like the company is 12 years old, and we've been doing a bunch of good stuff in branding and graphic design. So, and I'm pretty sure we'll have the time to talk about all of those things.
Yeah, fast forward 12 years. Indeed, it does feel like it feels really long when you're doing it, but when you look back, it's like a blink of an eye, isn't it?
Exactly.
How'd you guys meet though? You were in Paris, and Renata just founded the company in LA.
I was already in LA, and we were looking for someone to work on this account that we were starting to work at the time. In the very beginning of the company, I had an approach to start. It was part of the plan to start it as a full service, because from our backgrounds, I was just pretty much interested in a lot of different services, and the plan was to start as a full service, and then within the first 2 years to narrow down the services considerably so that we could be very focused and more niched into what we would find out that we loved the most and that we were the most recognized. And so that was the early stages of the company, and we would still offer social media management before Facebook ads, which was a different era kind of thing, where creativity was made such a big difference when you were creating campaigns for social and stuff. So we used to like that. And we started working with this new account here. It was a venue here in Hollywood. And then we needed someone to write some blog posts. And the guy at the time who was developing our first website had just finished developing our first website. Was related to Gabi. So we were introduced by him, and we met online. So it took us, Gabi, 2 years to meet in person, right?
Yeah, exactly. It was a little bit.
Yeah, I was thinking about that yesterday. Yeah, we met online on Skype. Yeah, exactly. Skype was the thing back in the day, and then
there was no Zoom, no Slack,
there was no Zoom, no. And we started developing our relationship, and then we ended up meeting in person for the first time when Gabby came to visit in LA, and it felt like we already knew each other.
Exactly.
Yeah, yesterday when I was speaking to you, I mentioned this before. Like when somebody sees you guys together, there's this, when the other person is talking, the other person is laughing. There's this like intimacy and friendship and love for each other. And then I asked you the question, like, should you ever start a company with your friends? And Renata, you mentioned that you guys weren't friends. And so how'd you develop this friendship? And do you think that has been one of the reasons for the success of Eat Studio?
I can take a stab at that one. Yeah,
you do it, but I also want to.
And then you go ahead and share yours. I think it's been an amazing journey of seeing us grow as human beings, but also as professionals. And we've had a lot of compassion and a lot of love for each other's stories since the beginning. And I think there was also a lot of projection and ability to identify with what the other one was living. So the choice that Renata made to like change countries and try to create a new life in a foreign world with a country that doesn't speak her language and that wouldn't give her the opportunities was the same one that I was trying to do. And I think we were connected not only by those life choices, but also by the way we were seeing life. So this idea of like being brave and trying to live something different and follow a dream and all of those things. Our initial link was work related, but it was never only work. Like we had a lot of fun since the beginning. So we would laugh and just really create a deep, interesting, very rich bond that ultimately through the hard times was what kept us together. When we were through very dark, difficult times with no clients or with financial issues, it was like our respect and our love and our admiration for each other's story that I think that held us together and that allowed us to overcome all of those difficulties and everything that was pushing us back. And then I think we saw each other grow. You can imagine, like either of us, we have never been business owners. So we never ran a business before. So we learned a lot of the things that we know how to do with this company. I was 19 years old. So it was my first job and my only job in my entire life. So everything that I know how to do, I kind of learned on the get-go, like we learned with each other. So I think, and the same goes for Renata, like she has experience previously, but I think the relationship with running a business and owning a business is pretty much the same. So I think friendship was almost like unavoidable. It's something that really happened. And nowadays is what we value the most. I think even more than our partnership, we always have this conversation from time to time, which is, where do we stand as human beings and like where our relationship stands? Because I think our relationship is the connective tissue of this company, and all of the other relationships that people have in this company somehow reflect the way we relate to each other. And I think it's a pretty healthy and good relationship, in my opinion. So yeah, I'm pretty proud. Like when I need to, we have a slide in our presentation deck that contains the pictures of both of us. When I need to present both of us, I only introduce Renata and I tell my story through hers. That's how intertwined that is. Yeah.
I want to take a stab on that answer too, because it's a very, very meaningful to me. And it was interesting in one of the interviews that we gave, like not a long time ago now, with the launch of the rebrand. The interview was asking both of us in separate situations, like if there's someone that has been very important in our journeys, and without knowing, we talked about each other, but at the end of the day, it's pretty obvious. So some words really come to my mind, and they definitely are respect, admiration, love, and this desire to see the other person growing and to see the other person's dreams come true, both through work and through their personal lives, right? And Gabi and I mean, he was 19, I was 29 when we started working together, and we became completely different humans with growing and the things that are interesting to us. And I'm talking about a relationship that happens every day, 7 days a week for 12 years. Mm-hmm. And so we've gone through so many different hurdles, and we had so much fun. And at the same time, like, there is always this space to be exactly who we are, and that feeling is so rare, where you can be 100% yourself with someone. I find, especially from moving and living our lives in different cultures, that can be a very rare thing to find, where you can be 100% yourself. So Gabi and I have this very liberating relationship, where it's such a breath of fresh air to be able to just be understood, heard, and supported at all times. So imagine how powerful this relationship is, where you also have this business together and this thing that we've been nurturing together for so long. And so in the topic of like starting a business with a friend, I think it's an interesting formula. There's a lot of talent as well. And the talent that we're both very talented, and we really admire each other's talent. So we learn so much from each other, and we are very different and very similar. Gabi is very, very, he's such a fast learner. He is very quick with like his understanding of the technical side of things. And I have a very developed emotional side, where I can read people's feelings and thoughts, and together we're this force that keeps this thing together. So I think that, like, when you are thinking about starting a business with a friend, I believe that the friendship needs to be constantly earned, and that you need to understand the different how to differentiate the relationships between the partners, the business partners, and the friends, and always making sure they're very aware of like that the responsibilities are different. I never call our team a family, because we're not a family. I have responsibilities with my family that I don't have with my team. We are a team. And so I think as long as those that we can see the relationship and its differences very clearly and respect them, then it's worth it. And it's not with just any friend that you start a business. I think there has to be a lot of talent and a lot of respect. Otherwise, there is a very big chance that your friendship is something is going to get hurt, Same with family.
Yeah, especially family. Yeah. Knowing what you know now and being such good friends, what if you were such good friends 10 years ago? Would you have started Eat together?
I think there are always exceptions to rules. As a rule of thumb, I would say I wouldn't work with a friend, and it changed. We worked with family members, and we worked with people, and we learned so much. I think when you work with someone, you endure a lot of difficulties and a lot of like tough choices that you need to make. And through those tough moments, you reinforce and you earn that friendship, as Renata was saying, and that friendship is made stronger. Whereas if you're family or if you're friends in the first place, it almost feels like the new professional link is secondary to that relationship. And therefore, whenever you're enduring a tough time, you need to value more what was taking place before that relationship. And therefore, when you're running a business, the business has its own needs and its own vision, and its own perspective, and that needs to be valued and taken care of. So I would go ahead and, like, as a general rule, say I wouldn't work with a friend. But at the same time, sometimes when you see passion and you see that there is, like, you want to believe and you really think that it's possible to do, you just go ahead and fuck the rules, like, just whatever, never mind.
It's a tough question. Yeah, it's a tough question just because it really depends. There are variables. I believe that if it was a situation similar to what it was, where the company already existed, so there was that shiny thing already that could be, it could be the same thing that would connect us by, like, believing that was something that was interesting to both of us, that we could see it grow and that we could see the potential, and we could feel the common desire to move forward with it. I could see that happening, but like Gabi said, I think it is a very interesting thing because the priorities become different, and you need to have a lot of just good emotional intelligence to be able to be very clear about what are you prioritizing.
Yeah, to be able to like draw the boundaries, very clear boundaries of
Exactly.
what is friendship, what is
Yeah.
family, and what is business. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
can get messy.
It's like it's like a marriage for real.
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
know? Yeah.
Renata, I want to ask you, how did you find yourself in America? And a pretty heavy question.
Please.
Do you think that the American dream is still alive?
Man, that's an amazing question. I found myself in America. I finished high school when I was 16, so I was pretty young. And at the time, my parents, I tried to apply for university. I didn't apply on my SAT, and my parents said that I could just I could travel to. I had some friends that were living here at the time, very, very close friends, and I had been studying English for a long time, for something like, I don't remember, like 8 years or something. And I just moved here for a year. And I took some classes at UCLA at the time, and I really fell in love with LA. I found I was always really into sports, and I found that there was so much beauty in the fact that I could go to the beach and go to the snow on the same day. So I fell in love with like the possibilities and the quality of life, and the fact that I could build my own life and with my own hands, in the sense that I wouldn't have to depend on anyone and my parents. And I was mesmerized by the richness of the opportunities that were available to anyone. And so in that beginning, like, I worked at McDonald's, I worked delivering pizza for a long time to pay for school. Like, I never had, my family never had a lot of money. So like Gabi, I came here with like $400 and that was it. And so, but the main thing was that my parents would not let me stay for good if I didn't have my degree. So I came back, and then I started going to university, and then I ended up coming back again, working as a snowboard instructor for a little while here, and then going back, and I finally graduated in 2005. And to move back here and for good it became my biggest dream, because after attending some classes at UCLA, I found it just that there was, for the profession that I was seeking for at the time, which was public relations, which is the place where this profession started, was here. It was so much more developed than anything that I could do in the town that I was born, which is the same town as Gabi, in Porto Alegre, in the south of Brazil. So I would go back and forth. And then the idea with my parents was just like, you need to graduate before you go anywhere. So I came back, finally got my degree. And 2 months after, I told my mom, in Brazil, it's part of the culture that you usually live with your parents until you kind of get married, which
same
nowadays
as India.
I see that, and I think it's very interesting. But yeah, within the 2 first months after I graduated, I got all my stuff and I said, I'm going, and then you can do whatever you want with my bedroom, because I'm never coming back. And that's pretty much what I did. So I found myself here. I took my master's degree here at UCLA. It was a pretty beautiful opportunity. I worked my way through it to pay for it as a babysitter at the time. And yeah, that's how I found myself here. And then the second question was about the American dream. I still believe that America is the land of opportunities. I think that this is a place where you can start and you can be no one and become someone. And I think that is that is something that you can, in a lot of different cultures. In my culture in Brazil, this is a little bit different. You belong to a certain class, and it's hard for you to overcome that and change that if you don't know the right people, if you don't have the right connections. I'm not saying that it's impossible. I'm just saying that it's just slightly more difficult. And I still appreciate that you can you can come here, work at a bar and make a living out of it and have the ability to pay for your own rent and have a good quality of life. At the same time, America has gone through so much, and I think it's something global. The world is going through so many different changes, and we're going through such tough times where humanity has been so challenged. In my optimistic way of seeing life, I think that has been very needed. I think that we've been needing this wake up call as humans to learn things that we have been pushing under the rug. So when it comes to the American dream and the picket fence and all that thing, I don't believe in that. I don't think that the idea of having a house and having a husband or a wife and having a dog and all that means that you're happy. But I do believe that this is the United States is a place that there are lots of opportunities. And now, especially after everything that happened in 2020, more than ever, where an immigrant can be someone here, someone who comes from no money can be someone here. Someone like people of color can be someone here, and that those are amazing things. So I would kind of like rephrase the American dream from the things that we used to see in movies, but I believe it.
No, thank you. That was a great answer. And I think that in both your case, Renata, and in Gabriel's case, it's like you both called it. You let the arrow go and you never look back. Like you said, do whatever you want with my room. I'm not coming back. Yeah. And Gabriel, you like learned French and you committed to Paris. So do you think that really played a big role in committing to your future, and that leads to probably success when you think that there's nothing really to look back anymore? So
I think
for both of us, there was this very strong gut feeling. I can speak for myself. I know some about Gabi, but Gabi can answer his part. But for me, it is the one, my business, the one. And man, we went through like some very real things where people were like, just get a job, like, why are you going through all of this? But for me, there was always this voice that said, this is it. You need to push through it. Gabi, how was it for you? I don't remember that answer.
So I think the question was just this idea of like committing and fighting for your commitment. And I just think it's even simpler than that. I think it's more of it's really a passion and like falling in love for a place. And I think our stories with EAT and the cities we chose are completely intertwined. Like I fell in love with Paris and I knew from the beginning, this is the place I wanted to live and the places I wanted to be in. And I know it's the same for Renata in LA. And I remember when I moved to Paris, maybe Renata doesn't even remember this, but like back in the day, it was my first week in the city. We're having a phone call and I told her like, so there's this city close by that is just like less expensive, but it's very far and all of that. And everyone's telling me to stay at that place. And he told me like, yeah, maybe you should do that. That's more reasonable. And I told her like, I want to be in Paris and this is the place that I really want to be. And she just went for like, I'm exactly the same. Just go for it. And it's this feeling of like, when you know, when you love something and when you really desire something, then therefore committing and therefore hustling and fighting and working and just sacrificing whatever you need to sacrifice doesn't sound that difficult, or it really is not that enduring, because I think there's something that is just bigger related to it. So for me, it has been a lot of gut feelings. Like I wanted to stay here, and I know Renata wanted to stay in LA. And then EAT was a byproduct of that passion, and then became a passion by itself. Like the company was conceived and crafted and created to allow us to live in the cities that we wanted to live, with the time zones that we have and the different cultures that we have. And even the fact that we're immigrants. So like not having opportunity in those places, having an accent, handling clients that might think we're this or that, and like assuming who we are and making sure that we're, just being proud and speaking up. And, so it's always like we used to have the slide in our presentation, which was work and life, and they were connected, and it's exactly this. Like, the company was conceived to allow us to live a meaningful life in the places that we love, and then through that life we put the inspiration into the work, and then the work makes sense and people want to work with us, and things just move forward. I think we've been lucky. I'm not sure it's everyone that goes to a place and just feels it, and it really sounds like super abstract and super like arbitrary. Just go to the places that you love. Maybe you don't have that feeling right away. And I have friends that went to places and they told me like, I'm not sure if it's here. And I was like, don't feel pressured. You don't need to have that final call. You don't need to know. But if you do, then listen to your gut and go for it, fight for it. And I think this is something that we had. We did not know a lot of other things, but at least we knew where we wanted to be. Yeah.
I think this is a perfect segue to talk about Eat Studio. I know it must be like 1,000 times people ask you why you named it Eat. I'll help you. I'll help you out. It was supposed to be entertainment, art, and talent, but then you guys rebranded it. Yeah, in the beginning. So I really like that idea of like just starting, because I think a lot of the times I've done this too. You know, is that people try to figure out exactly what it needs to be and exactly what the brand needs to be
forever.
Yeah, and that becomes a detriment to just begin. And I think it's simpler to just begin and then kind of figure it out and finesse. Yeah,
man, that name I love, because I have the day and the scene of what was happening so alive in my life that I love to share. It was a Sunday afternoon. It rarely rains in LA. We have a lot of sunny days here. I was very hungover with my friends at home, and it was rainy. And it was this cloudy, boring day. And I have this group of friends that they are architects and really fun people, super creative. And I needed a name for the business. I had the whole idea ready to go, and it was time to. I was starting to brainstorm on my own. And one of my really good friends, Adam, he brings from another bedroom in his house. Like, we were just hanging out, everyone, and he brings all these arts and crafts and these papers and paint and markers and everything, and that's very Adam. And we started chatting about it, and I remember saying, I want something that is short and sweet. Maybe it's an acronym. I want it to be random. It doesn't have to be something that is very obvious. And then we started brainstorming. I still have the papers of everything that came out, and we had so much fun. And it came out of the idea of all you can eat, the idea that you could go to a place and get everything done. And little did we know that this was not something very cool here. In Brazil, for a little while, the all you can eat idea, this holistic approach, was something cool in restaurants. But it took me so long to learn that in the US, this didn't have the best like connotation. When people would think about a restaurant, like an all you can eat restaurant, they wouldn't see the best thing. And we made so many of those mistakes in the beginning, but long story short, that's how the name Eat started. Right. And at the time, as part of my background, I worked a lot with creating brands for events, always related to music. So we would, for example, we would work with Nokia or Heineken. They're going to launch a product, and we would create branded events to launch their products, or like going on tour with that product. And my team would create the names, the brands, and all the promotional materials. So it was always related to branding, but in that field. So moving to LA, I had a lot of connections in the music industry, in the entertainment industry. So entertainment, art, and talent made so much sense, right? And moving forward, we're 2 years in, doing everything, exhausted, everything. I mean, like serving in all these different types of areas, super tired, not really knowing. And then we decided to make the decision and pivot to doing just the design only. And suddenly we stopped really seeking for the same industries. And that's when the name stopped to make sense. The acronym stopped to make sense. But then, so we rebranded. kind of like let that alone. And now with this new rebrand, we think it's okay to share that's what it was. We don't necessarily use that anymore, but there's nothing wrong with where we started. And I really agree with you that it's an advice that we usually give to our clients, that when you're starting, you are just not going to have a lot of answers, and that's okay. We usually hold the clients by the hand and help them to have as many answers as they can, but it's okay that they don't. And then it's important to give the brand room to be its own thing, and that you can have a very watchful, you can watch from the far and see what this brand is going to become, and to be very, it's very important to listen to what the brand has to say to you, what people have to say about the brand, and then okay, maybe within the next 2 years you're going to rebrand, understanding all the answers that you already have.
And I think the ultimate reason we kept the name, we kept it, is because we love it. Like we really like how that sounds. We think it's bold. We like how random that feels. And
very random.
At the end of the day, like the company is supposed to represent our philosophy and our vision of things. And it goes exactly the same way that my answer for the cities. Like you feel it, and if you feel it and if you like it, you go for it, and then you own it, and then it works. And if you don't, then you go ahead and change it. We really like it. We like how it sounds. We like how it looks, and people like it too. Like, so there's something about it. So we decided to keep it.
Yeah. I think what's attractive about the name is that you can't ignore it. You're intrigued when you hear Eat Studio. You're always like, there's a question in your mind, like, Eat Studio, what is that? You know, you just can't ignore it. Well, 10 years ago, you know, what you guys did with Gabriel in Paris and you in LA, you've been doing what we're just getting used to, this work from home culture that's coming up, and you already have a decade on 2021. So
we've been in the future.
Yeah. So what do you think that this new culture will be looking towards in terms of like problems? Because you've already experienced 10 years of, you know, work from home culture.
Do you want me to go, Gabi?
I could start.
I could do more of the personal side of it, and maybe you go more with the technical side of it, of what it takes. Yeah. The teams, we've gone through lots of different hurdles when working remotely for so long, and I think the biggest personal side is definitely loneliness, where a lot of times people would just really, really miss that, you know, the personal exchange that you get when you're going to the company and seeing people and everything, and that synergy, the energy that you exchange. So there's that. We worked on lots of different things that could help people to feel less lonely, and doing team trips and making sure that we were always present, and, you know, giving people the chance of doing online therapy to share their feelings and to make sure that they are heard. We always stop what we're doing to listen to the team when there's something to be said. And I think managers have to be people who are leaders of teams that are working remotely they just have to be very aware of the individuals, because all of a sudden you're not really necessarily managing teams. Each individual is its own ecosystem, and you need to be able to pay attention. This is something that comes very natural to me, to pay attention to people, and to Gabi as well. So there's that. And I think that's the biggest one when it comes to like the emotions and everything. And Gabi can move forward with the technical stuff.
Yeah, I think from a technical standpoint, there's I don't think there's any big major issue. I think there are only advantages as long as you know how to manage all of the time zones, and you can allow free time for people and allow them to disconnect, and you create like company policies that will enforce time for people to rest and relax. And we're very serious about that. Like we don't work on weekends, we take Fridays off, and we have a bunch of like programs for just to make sure that we're taking the time to rest and relax and recover. From a process standpoint, the company was created to allow us to work remotely and work with like huge time distances and huge time differences. And it works as a well-oiled machine. So there's always someone that is awake taking care of stuff, but at the same time, it's a healthy environment. I think what we try to do the most from a process standpoint is just to get closer to the team, especially when you have a bigger team. We've been through different phases, and we had bigger teams and smaller teams. And I think the bigger your team, the more interactions you would have internally, and therefore the more points of contact you need to establish so people don't feel alone. And when you're a smaller team, it's therefore just easier for you to handle, because like you have small group conversations and people are just exchanging every day. We travel once a year, so we haven't done this in a while because of COVID, but hopefully we'll be able to do that.
But we are going
again.
to.
Yeah, very soon. So we go to a random place in the world and we spend 2 weeks together, just like loving each other and talking business and discussing and planning. And it's that moment where everything culminates in that amazing moment of the year where we actually see each other and we spend all of that time together. And we also have programs for people to travel so we can visit each other. Renata is in Europe like 3 times a year normally. So I think the physicality, like the presence aspect of things, it is very important. And we're not the company that will tell you like this is something that that can be put behind and we can just work remotely and online all of the time. Forever. There are a lot of advantages working online, but we also need to make sure that we're seeing each other and that we're, just taking time to exchange as human beings. And then we also fulfill this presence need, I think, in other ways. We do public speaking, and we're teachers and instructors in universities and schools in the cities we're in. And I think that also helps fulfill that need of actually seeing people in real life and sharing your story, sharing what you know, getting feedback from them, making sure they're coming to the office, and just keeping the human link alive and going. We're all human beings, and we all need this social aspect. So this is pretty much it. I think a balance between like presence and online is the way to go. This is what we believe in.
I want to add one thing that I think it's very, very important for that scenario, which is hiring well is very important because if you are not very sure about your company's DNA and therefore you don't have a very clear vision of what are the types of candidates, of what are the team members that you need for your team, and how are their personalities, their ethics around work and the way they deliver. Are they people who need to be micromanaged, that need to be under the same roof right next to you? Are there people who are passionate about over delivering because they love the work? Because you can't micromanage anymore. Mm-hmm. And I believe that, in reality, micromanaging is just I don't believe in that. But so it's super important to hire very well so that you can go to sleep understanding that things are going to continue to move forward even when you're not on.
Yeah.
And you're not seeing people, you're not, and I've never worked that way, but I know that there's a lot of that out there where you're not seeing what people are doing every day, so they're in their own homes. So you need to be able to trust. And we take a lot of pride on hiring very good professionals. We have a pretty clear understanding of who are the types of team members that would be part of this team. Yeah. So I think that makes a very big difference as well.
So like company culture and self-motivation becomes super important, right? There's a timely piece in The Economist. I was reading it. It's the latest issue where they're talking about the future of work. And, from reading it, I understand that it's becoming a lot of people are saying, I feel that too. I work remotely and I feel that there's a lot of time, personal life, in your personal life, as well as people feel that they're more efficient and they're getting more work done and the quality of work and life is better. But in terms of what the article is talking about is that there are still places and companies in the world where there's a problem in legal terms when it comes to work from home. So the law is kind of still figuring out how to kind of, because a lot of these work from home rules that we have made for ourselves are not really covered legally. So it can be disadvantageous for the employees where the company has an opportunity to take advantage by either docking pay or something like that. And I read that this is interesting. Gabriel, you might be able to talk on this a little bit. There's a kind of law that's kind of, I don't know if you can hear that. I'm in New York, so it's really loud. Somebody's blasting music outside.
I hear it. Yeah.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so in France, they're kind of like trying to create this law where, this is so funny, it's illegal to eat at your desk. So
that sounds so French.
Yeah, to prevent overwork. But yeah, I think that that's kind of like anachronistic, because where domestic and professional spheres kind of like are one and the same, a lot of people are doing that. I think the dining tables and the dining rooms almost extinct now. It's like a dinosaur, you know.
I think, like, from a French perspective, and it's an entire debate about French culture, which I love, by the way. I'm obsessed about it. I think it's a very, very interesting thing, full of intricacies and things you could love and things you could hate. First of all, when it comes to that law, there's really no punishment involved in it. So therefore, if you eat at your desk, you won't be punished with a fine or prison or anything like that. And I think the French do a lot of those things to really take a stand and just make sure that we're establishing what are our values and in which way do we see society and do we see the intersection of life and work and how those things should be like organized from a lawful standpoint, from a society standpoint. And I do think that's a great thing. I think it's important for you to be able to establish those limits, especially in a country where we take a lot of pride of taking the time to eat. Like, it is one of like the core foundational pillars of this entire thing all around. I do think that it's a great thing. I think it's important for you to establish boundaries and for you to have time for yourself, even though it might sound and it might look like a cliche for people to just randomly multitask and do a gazillion stuff. And we all have eaten at some point in front of our computers. I think that I think it's normal. It shouldn't be like that. And we really take the time to make sure that we have like lunch breaks and that we're taking the time to enjoy. The company was created to allow us to enjoy the places we're in, so that we don't spend all of our times in front of the computer seeing a city through the window and just like window shopping a reality that isn't ours. So it comes back to the point that I mentioned in the beginning. We were in love with the countries and the cities that we were in. We wanted to live those cities to their full extent and therefore put that inspiration back into the work that we create. We might have a sandwich in front of the computer once in a while because we have, like, I don't know, a hard deadline, but this should not be your philosophy or the way you see work, or even what you should do in front of your employees or your team as something like, listen, I'm working so much and I'm, I think the inspiration and the role model should be exactly the opposite. Like, we're taking time for ourselves and we're just going out and, doing everything that you could do out there. You have amazing restaurants with amazing terraces for you to just have lunch in. So why not? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think that, the future is very exciting in terms of like lean workspaces and to see where this goes. I don't think there would be a major move to keep work from home, like the permanent or the major work setting. I think once the COVID dies down, people will make the move back to offices. But I think there will be a few trailblazers who are still going to continue. So that's going to be exciting. Renata, I wanted to ask you, you've been a woman in this field for a really long time. And there's been challenges and all of those things. And in 10 years, the Hegelian pendulum has swung and things are looking better and people are speaking up. But there are also a sector of people who feel that maybe it's swung too much and there needs to be a correction. And kind of like find a balance? What do you think about that?
I think balance is my favorite word in the world. I think about balance for everything that I do. And in the topic that you guys were discussing before about work and Gabi's talking about, how we serve as examples for our team members and for our clients and everything. And I think that there's as humanity, we're going through this really challenging times where we're used to wear stress as a badge of honor, where it is, I'm only cool if I am stressed, if I'm busy. And then you call all your friends. You can choose 10 people and you ask them how they are, and they say, I'm very busy. And I think that's so sad, and not being busy is not that you are a lazy ass who's not doing anything, but it's just like, how much is enough, right? And so I think that there's a big discussion that we were kind of mentioning yesterday about hormones and equality between men and women. And I think scientifically and physiologically, we are the same in the sense that both men and women, we have hormones and we both go through cycles. What happens here is that women's cycles are more scrutinized. Sometimes our cycles are messy, but men also have very messy cycles.
I'm on mine right now.
Right. And so and also, like, scientifically, it is easier to study the things that are more constant, because you can find the numbers, you can fine line those numbers and those differences easier. So male has been much more studied when it comes to that. And at the same time, because women, they don't necessarily always represent that same line that goes with the same constant, in the same balance, it's harder to study sometimes. So all of that to say is that, this whole idea of saying that women are hormonal and that makes us crazy and erratic, and that's just not true. It's just false. Hormones are a very great thing. They're there to serve as messengers to let us know, to nudge us, and let us know what the body needs, and to deliver messages from point A to B. It's up to us to listen to these messages. And I think that I'm sure that stress, it covers our eyes, in the sense that stress makes it very hard for us to really understand what our bodies are trying to say. And because this is not a subject that is discussed amongst the male culture and male and guy friends, they're not talking about their hormones, unfortunately. Men are just not a lot of the times, they're just not in touch with these messages that the hormones are trying to tell, and so they just go through it. And so this is a very big subject, in the sense that I think that that doesn't change the fact that that it's very important that the men and women are seen equally. I don't want to be seen as a girl boss or a girl CEO I'm not none of that. I'm a CEO. That's it. And I don't need to be seen as a different person. And I'm gonna have my ups and downs, just like Obama has his ups and downs. Everyone, they all have their ups and downs. It's up to us to feel comfortable enough to read our bodies and speak up when it's needed, and take the time when it's needed, and learn our lessons, and really learn how to respect our bodies. Because otherwise we pay the bill, and it's in this lifetime,
That's
so
true.
I hope
yes, thank you. That was a very thoughtful answer, and I do agree with you. And you've said a very poignant thing about wearing stress as a badge, and being busy is makes you sort of like above other people in society, and people who are relaxed are kind of a lower kind of sect of people. No, I think that is a very important topic of discussion today, especially with work from home, where everybody, where the lines are kind of blurred of when to stop working, because you're always working and you're always living in a way. Are there like personal relaxation tactics that you guys use to kind of walk away from the desk?
Oh yeah, man, we are very good at it. Both of us. And don't get me wrong. I always like to make this very clear. Like both Gabi and I were pretty messy workaholics for a long time. And I like to say that in the creative industry, which is the one that I know, I'm not saying that the other industries are not, because there's so much passion involved. A lot. The passion is the craft. And then you create a company around that craft that you love so much. So those lines that are already blurry, because we have to be very productive at all times, no matter which industries we are at. When it comes to the creative industry, that you're so attached to your craft, I find that it could be harder sometimes to understand when to stop. And so I wanted to start by saying that we were not always more relaxed. We were not always very proud of our time off. We not always had time off. We would work nonstop, and we would share with our teams that we didn't want them to work on the weekends, and we didn't want them to work late hours, but we would keep going, never ending. And that didn't end up well for me, specifically for my health. And I'm glad that Gabi was able to be smart enough to learn with my mistakes and stop before he burned completely out. He was completely burned out. But so I love this stuff so much that I became a meditation teacher. So I'm a certified meditation teacher. I'm not teaching yet, but I have very serious plans to do that. But I have a pretty serious meditation practice that is daily, and it's non-negotiable in my life. And I turn off. Doesn't matter. The world can end outside. I learned pretty easily that we're not curing cancer. Things are okay. Gabi really taught me a lot about that. Like, if it's not urgent, if it's not for today, it can wait till tomorrow. And he also taught me that a lot of the times I would put myself into these urgencies that they didn't even exist. Exactly. And I would hear Gabi saying to me when I was by myself, like, he would be like, this entire list, like, you created for yourself. You don't need to be doing it. And I was like, yeah, okay. So I'm just not going to do it. But it takes practice, because we are not wired to do that. So I meditate. I love spending time with my friends and my dog. And I love reading books is my favorite thing. So I love like sitting down and with energy, not exhausted in bed, laying down where you read one sentence and you fall asleep. I love the beach and spending time in nature. Small trips. We just came back from a road trip to Bend, Oregon. That was everything. It was just this tiny, small city, very deep in nature, where you walk and get your coffee, and you walk to this one market and you buy lettuce, and that kind of just slowing down. Yeah. I love that. But I was the very opposite in my teenage years. So I always like to say that I don't want people to think that they're less or that they're more because they do those things. I think every body is their own body. Exactly. And for every person, things you will see when Gabi's going to talk about what he does, and it's completely different.
And I think there's a recipe for everyone, and it goes like in phases, and you learn how to do, like, depending on the phase you're living. I think for me, the way that I disconnect, and that I disconnect from everything, not only work, is just music and sports. And it is that combo of listening to music and focusing solely on the music, and then working out. So getting my body active and focusing on like the movement that you generate and all of those endorphins and the amazing feeling of just like moving forward. I'm becoming an indoor cycling instructor. And it happened because I was taking a lot of those classes exactly to help me disconnect from work. So you go to this dark room and you're on a bike and the music is super loud and you're just going with the flow, and then you're like, moving in the rhythm of the song. And it really changed my life. Like, it helped me access a lot of things that were in my head and just clean it. So it's sort of meditation for me. This is how I see it.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of that. And I also run. So I ran like 20 kilometers or 15 kilometers, and it just helps me not think about anything. I just focus on myself and my body, and the feeling that I get afterwards is just a lot of peace and calm. And then whenever I come back to work, I have a different perspective about it. But as Renata was mentioning, like, I don't think there's a right recipe or something that is right or wrong for you to do. Some people would do sound bath. Some people would run 50 miles, and some people would meditate. I think it takes a lot of like self-awareness and just understanding what helps you and what makes you feel good and makes you feel like calm and balanced and fulfilled. And then we will go for that. I think it's an ongoing exploration for both of us, and it will continue to be. So we'll keep learning and just trying new things. I just think it's important for you to disconnect from work, nevertheless. Like, it's important for you to be able to nurture and carve time and save time and dedicate time for those things, and to develop other interests. I think being a workaholic is also due to the fact that you don't have any major other interest in your life, and that's a sad thing. So it's important for you to nurture other interests, hobbies, and just things that make you feel good. Yeah,
that's a good point. I also do believe in active meditation. I tried meditating before, but a lot of the beliefs are changing, but where I started meditation, the thing was you have to clear your mind. It has to be blank. Think of the sky or something like that. And I just couldn't. I'm a very restless person. And so when I started glass blowing or woodworking, that was meditation for me. And glass blowing is so intense. It's the heat, the music, the movement of the glass, the danger of you might burn yourself. So it's that focus, which is just like laser focused on it. Yeah. So that active meditation for me, my body might be super tired after like a 1 hour, 2 hour session of glass blowing, but my mind is just energized.
That's it. Wow. That's exactly it.
That's cool.
This is what I tell people. Like, people go like, you cycle for 2 hours and then you come to work, aren't you tired? And I give them the most honest answer, which is I actually feel energized. I feel focused, and I feel present more than I would have been if I did not do that thing before. So, yeah.
I've been a really, really big fan of like when things went down for me, when I burnt out and things I was not the healthiest. I turned to the Ayurveda medicine and the Ayurveda practice, and Ayurveda is all about balance. And so I think the two main words would be balance and self-awareness, and you keep going from one to the other. So because throughout the even the seasons, because sometimes we might feel like, okay, I found this formula, so I'm going to meditate every day and I'm going to cycle for 2 hours every day, and that might work for you in the summer, and then when it comes the winter, you just feel more tired and that doesn't work for you, and when it comes spring, you feel different. So it is a constant exploration. It's a daily exploration. And what is it that your body needs that day, that very day? And I think that's the sweet spot where we're able to understand that, I don't know, I'm super congested and I'm feeling like this and like that. So sometimes in some bodies, they need the movement. Some bodies, they would need to stop and to chill. So for me, the slowing down was what I needed to balance the very, very extremely fast pace that everything happened in my life and my brain. And I was in constant movement. And so what I wanted was just like to stop everything. So but it's a constant exploration. Like some days that might be what's going to serve you. And then some kind of food is the best one for your body that day. Well, hot bath or a cold bath or whatever it is. And just not thinking that we're going to find this golden formula. It's going to serve forever for the rest of your life, because in 3 months that just might not work anymore.
Exactly.
So
yeah. What do you teach your students when you're now that you're a meditation instructor, what do you think you would tell somebody like me who can't like clear my mind
Man,
or
I
can't
already have all
focus
these
on the
ideas.
sky?
Yeah. So to start, meditation is not about stopping your thoughts, because that's humanly impossible. Our brains are organs that are made to think, and that's it. So the idea that you're going to be able to stop them is just unreal. So, and then what's going to happen if you think that way? It's just going to be frustrated, and you're just going to be like, oh, I just can't do that. I'm crazy. My mind is crazy, whatever. So I think the first thing to share is that the point here is not to stop your thoughts, is to be able to coexist with them. And when you were going through that exercise, like I teach what they call a being technique. So it is the very, very first technique that helps you to practice being, to practice just the presence. So you really don't need to do anything with it. In the technique that I teach, it's okay for you do it sitting, and you actually do it you were able to rest your back, when a lot of techniques like you need to be sitting still. So in my technique, in the technique that we study, you can be very relaxed, and that serves a purpose as well, where as long as your back is free and your back supported, you're good. And the plan here is that you repeat this mantra in your mind, and when you lose it, it's okay, you come back to it, and that's all you need to know. It's a very effortless technique, and it serves the purpose to help people who think that they can't meditate, people who are just starting to meditate. And this technique is very useful for people who are also more developed, more advanced, and they are trying to practice other techniques. It really helps you to really get the best out of the different techniques. So you sit and you think about this mantra, and if you start thinking about something else, you go back to the mantra, and that's all you need to do for 20 minutes. And you don't stop your thoughts. You watch them when they come, and you go back to the mantra, and that's it. And it's
right.
It's very powerful. Yeah.
Meditation
is like going to the gym. You practice and you get better at it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, that's true. You can't be an expert right off the bat when you're meditating. It's a hard thing to kind of master, I think. I've read a little about on Ram Dass, and Ram Dass is a big proponent of like, you cannot clear your mind, so just focus on love. And his line is, you are loving awareness, and to like be easy on yourself and just focus on the things you care about, and that is also meditation. And I think so. That's nice. Before we end, I wanted to just understand when you begin an Eat Studio project. It's when you're working with clients. Understanding the problem is obviously important. So is understanding the pain points, understanding the personality. So what comes first in your brand identity projects or your projects in general? How do you go about beginning a process? Do you have a 5-step design process, something like that, or just every project is different? Yeah.
I think as part of being of working remotely, we have to have very, very specific and well detailed processes. Otherwise, we would not be here 12 years later. So we have created and crafted processes that really work for us, so that we can constantly repeat them, giving, of course, the ability to always be very creative. Where is this more abstract part of the work? But there's a method for everything that we do. And our process when it comes to brand development is, we start with what we call a discovery phase, where we're getting to know the client very well. So we have a set of questions, and it's like an interview that it's usually done by email. Sometimes we have a phone call and so forth. And then as the next phase is what we call the concept phase, where we immerse and we study the brand's universe, both like inside of it and outside of it. And that's part of our recipe. It's something that we call a brand analysis. That's the document that is delivered to the client to represent the concept that we are starting to create. So through this presentation, and once we have the feedback from the client, the approval, then we start sketching. And that's when we actually start designing. And at EAT, we take a lot of pride to say that we never guess. So we take quite a little bit of time to study and to make sure that we're going in the right direction before we start designing. And that's done because it's important for us to not exhaust the client with lots of rounds of revisions. And it's also important for us to not exhaust the artist with having to repeat things over and over, because they both just lose the interest and the project becomes less exciting when you're having to repeat it over and over. And then finally, once we have the chosen brand, we usually have some changes, but not many. And then we finalize it, and then we start working on the brand guidelines, which is the manual of instructions of the brand, which is composed of like everything that the client needs to have to be able to move forward on their own if they want. And if they want us to continue to nurture the brand, there's also an option for that. So that's usually how it goes. Gabi, have I missed?
That's everything. It's very well outlined. That's pretty much all of the process. We try to make sure that we understand everything before we start. And then we start.
How often is it very scary for people to change their brand? And do you guys have to deal with that quite often? Or?
Well, I wouldn't say that often. I think it depends on the usually I would say the young companies.
Yeah.
They're naturally more scared because, like, we were talking about, they have less answers. And so they're less sure about who they are and what they want. And these companies mean so much to them. Not that the global brands don't have that as well, but it depends on how new the brand is. But a lot of people come to start their businesses and they're pretty sure about what they want. But we definitely went through some pretty real exercises where the clients were very confused and scared. And I think having empathy and understanding that that's happening, and trying to walk this journey with them and making them feel comfortable about their decisions, and knowing when to say, okay, guys, we need to move forward with this. Like, you need to get this done, and giving that push. We do that as well. So.
It's more. I think it's more that than anything else, because usually clients will come to us requesting for the brand work already. So they're hiring that service. So they have kind of like a proneness and a tendency, an inclination to do that work because they're hiring it in the first place. What we do see is resistance when it comes to the actual execution of the work, because we see that they might be attached to what they had or who they were, and they're not really, like, I always say the same thing when I present the company. People know they need something, but they don't know what they need. So they know that they need a new brand, but they don't know what exactly that new brand should look like. And I think the beauty of the process is exactly this. Like, it's taking them through and empowering them to make a decision, an informed decision that will work for them. And Renata is amazing at that. Like, we've been in countless situations where the designs are done. They are in front of the client. They're ready to go. And the client is like dwelling, and they go like, maybe if we tried that. And Renata goes like, listen, your brand is there. We did everything that was required, that you requested. All the brand work is ready to go. Now it's time for you to look at that and make a decision. And I'm here to make that decision with you. And they look at her kind of like, oh my God, okay, cool. We need to make a decision. And then they make that decision, and the brand is a success, and it happens. So it takes a lot of like emotional coaching. It's not only like a technical decision. It needs to come from the heart, because it represents a company that you love, and it's a brand that is supposed to be, I wouldn't say timeless, but that is supposed to last for a long time. So it really requires like some strength and willingness to go ahead. And I think part of our work is actually taking them through this process and empowering them to make that decision too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. All right. Last question. Rebranding a branding firm? And also, do you think that's already an interesting thing, right? Do you think it's important to be open to changing as a company in the future? And are you guys always mindful and set aside this portion of your thoughts that we're open to change and we're open to transformation, and maybe 10 years from now we'll look forward to another rebranding of Eat?
We like to say that we rebrand every time that we changed enough that the company doesn't represent who we are anymore. And so that's pretty much our answer. We don't have a specific timeline to when we need a new rebrand. But it's because we apply this process so much to the clients. And we do have a lot of self-awareness in general, like as a company and as humans and professionals. Every time that we just don't feel represented, and that's very clear to us. And then we know that it's time to rebrand. So I'm so proud of this last work that is being done. It's a very big, beautiful step of showing a more mature version of us, a calmer version of us, a less workaholic, more just evolved and bolder. The way that we're presenting the work is just very elegant and legit. And it's beautiful when you see that people, that's why I believe so much in the power of brands and everything that is behind it, is because it's not just that symbol. It's the everything that you feel, that we want you to feel when you enter our website or when you talk to us or when you start working with us. And this is what a brand is. It's not just a symbol. It's what is the soul behind all of it. And it's beautiful to see when it works, when people really get that message in, and you ask people like, oh, so how do you feel when you enter our website? And it's so beautiful when people start saying the keywords that were the first words that helped us to guide through the design process. And that's when we see that our work was well done.
Mm-hmm. Where can people find you?
Yeah, our website is eat.studio.
Exactly. And our Instagram is eat.studio. So
yeah, and I'll put all of that down there. Your website's beautiful. It's an experience.
And tell people to go to Behance. It's behance.com/eat.studio. It has all of our latest design projects and everything is well explained. And we put a lot of love into that website.
The 3Ds on our website, they have surprises. So we can tell people to go and play with the 3Ds because they do things. Each one of them. When you go to the website, each one of them.
I love the penguin, and I love the penguin with the balloon. It's really nice.
Rose under the there's a rose hidden in the website.
I have to find that. I haven't found that yet. There you go. There's some hidden features for you to see. Well, I want to end this with a quote from Gabriel. It might be awkward with Gabriel sitting here, but I forget where, but Gabriel said that flexibility and freedom inspires work, and what we'll become is still uncertain, undefined, unknown, and yet somehow so pretty. Thank you so much for coming here today. It was a real honor, and it was a very nice conversation.
Thank you. Really, thanks for taking the time. It's been amazing. Yeah.
So enjoyable. You were so good at this.